Amelia stands at the top of the subway station stairs, hesitating before descending into the dimly lit passage. The walls are adorned with graffiti, some of it unsettling and cryptic. The overhead lights flicker intermittently, casting irregular shadows on the concrete steps. With a deep breath, Amelia begins her descent, the echoes of her footsteps reverberating through the empty stairwell. Amelia navigates the labyrinth in corridors of the subway station, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The walls are lined with old posters peeling off, revealing layers of forgotten advertisements. Every now and then, she hears the distant rumble of a passing train, a reminder of the world above. The air grows cooler and damper as she ventures deeper into the underground maze, her senses heightened by the eerie stillness. Amelia emerges onto the platform, greeted by the eerie silence of the empty station. The flickering fluorescent lights cast irregular shadows on the cracked tiles and rusted benches. There is a vending machine in the corner, its light blinking faintly. Amelia shivers, feeling a sense of isolation as she waits alone on the desolate platform, the only sounds the occasional drip of water echoing in the distance. As Amelia waits, she notices shadows moving along the platform walls, flickering and dancing in the dim light. They seem to have a life of their own, defying any logical explanation. Amelia's pulse quickens as she senses a presence, unseen, but palpable in the oppressive atmosphere of the station. She grips her backpack tightly, her eyes darting nervously around the platform. Amelia boards the approaching train, its doors hissing open with pneumatic breath. Inside, the carriage is dimly lit, casting long shadows across the empty seats. She finds a window seat, the plastic cold against her skin. As the train moves deeper into the tunnels, Amelia peers out the scratched window, watching the flickering lights of the tunnel walls. The train enters a tunnel, enveloping the carriage in darkness for a moment before emerging into another station. Amelia hears faint whispers echoing through the empty carriage, their words indistinct yet unsettling. She turns, expecting to see another passenger, but the carriage remains empty save for her. The whispers grow louder and more urgent, echoing through the confined space. Amelia disembarks at an old, seemingly abandoned station, the air heavy with the scent of dampness and decay. She steps cautiously onto the platform, her footsteps echoing loudly in the silence. The station is deserted, with rusted benches and cracked tiles under flickering lights. Amelia senses a presence watching her from the shadows, unseen yet palpable in the oppressive atmosphere. As Amelia explores further, she encounters a figure standing in the shadows, a silhouette obscured by darkness. She hesitates, her heart pounding, unsure if the figure is real or a trick of the flickering lights. The figure remains motionless, watching her with an intensity that sends a shiver down her spine. Amelia takes a cautious step closer, her mind racing with fear and curiosity. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Amelia turns and runs, her footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. She glances back only once, catching a glimpse of the figure disappearing into the shadows. Amelia emerges into the main corridor, sprinting towards the exit as if pursued by unseen forces. She bursts into the open air, gasping for breath and trembling with relief, the echoes of her ordeal fading behind her in the distance. Amelia emerges onto the bustling city street, her heart still racing from the harrowing experience underground. She looks back at the subway entrance, half expecting to see the shadowy figure watching her from the depths. But the station remains silent and still, blending seamlessly into the urban landscape. With a deep breath, Amelia continues down the street, haunted by the memory of whispers and shadows, forever changed by her journey into the depths of fear. This narrative takes Amelia on a chilling exploration of the subway's eerie depths, touching on themes of isolation, supernatural encounters, and the thin line between reality and fear. Each scene builds suspense and narrator. On a stormy evening, for friends Lily, Mark, Sarah, and Tom arrived at Blackwood Mansion. The old mansion loomed over them, surrounded by twisted trees. They had come to investigate the rumors of hauntings. Narrator. The front door creaked open with a loud groan. Inside, the grand foyer was covered in dust and cobwebs. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. Narrator, as they explored the first floor, they found old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow them. The silence was occasionally broken by distant, unexplained noises. Narrator, in the parlor, the temperature suddenly dropped. Lily felt a cold hand brush against her arm. Startled, she turned around, but no one was there. The others felt an eerie presence too. Narrator, to cover more ground, they decided to split up. Lily and Mark went upstairs, while Sarah and Tom continued exploring the ground floor. The house seemed to grow darker and more oppressive. Narrator, upstairs, Lily and Mark found an old nursery. Broken toys were scattered across the floor, and a rocking chair moved back and forth on its own. They heard faint, ghostly giggles. Narrator, Sarah and Tom found a door leading to the basement. The stairs were steep and dark. As they descended, they felt an increasing sense of dread. In the basement, they saw a shadowy figure that seemed to disappear as they approached. Narrator, terrified, Sarah and Tom ran upstairs to find Lily and Mark. They decided to leave immediately, but when they tried to open the front door, it was locked and wouldn't budge. Narrator, while searching for another way out, they discovered a hidden passage behind a bookcase. The narrow, dark tunnel seemed to be their only hope of escape. Narrator, as they made their way through the tunnel, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure again, now more menacing. It let out a chilling wail and reached towards them. Narrator, they ran as fast as they could, the ghostly wails echoing behind them. The tunnel finally led them outside, far from the mansion. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of the town. Narrator, Blackwood Mansion remained abandoned, a place of nightmares and lost souls. The friends never spoke of that night again, but they couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching them. The subway station was unusually quiet as Emily descended the concrete stairs, her footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The overhead lights flickered intermittently, casting unsettling shadows that seemed to dance along the walls. The air was cool and musty, carrying a faint scent of dampness and decay. Emily glanced around nervously, her hand clutching the strap of her backpack tightly. The station platform lay ahead, deserted and dimly lit, with an eerie silence that magnified her growing unease. Emily stepped onto the platform, her footsteps echoing faintly in the empty space. Graffiti adorned the walls, their colors muted under the dim lights. Trash littered the ground, adding to the station's neglected appearance. She checked the electronic display board, but it remained blank and lifeless. A cold draft blew through the tunnel, rustling discarded newspapers and sending a chill down Emily's spine. She felt as though unseen eyes were watching her from the shadows, a sensation that made her skin crawl. As Emily paced nervously, she heard faint whispers echoing around her. At first, they were indistinct murmurs, like distant conversations carried on the wind. She strained to make out words, but they eluded her grasp. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, filling her mind with a sense of dread. She turned sharply, her heart racing, but saw only the empty platform and the dark tunnel stretching ahead. The whispers continued, swirling around her like a chilling breeze. Suddenly, the whispers coalesced into ghostly apparitions, their forms shimmering in the dim light. They appeared as faint outlines at first, but then solidified into translucent figures. Emily staggered backward, her eyes wide with disbelief and terror. The ghosts floated towards her, their features contorted in anguish. Some reached out as if pleading for help, while others simply watched with hollow eyes. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she realized she was surrounded by the restless spirits of the subway station. Panic surged through Emily as the ghosts drew closer, their presence overwhelming her senses. With a primal instinct, she turned and ran, her footsteps echoing loudly in the empty station. The ghosts pursued her, their ghostly forms flickering in and out of existence as they floated through the air. Emily darted past abandoned corridors and closed-off rooms, her mind racing with fear and confusion. She glimpsed shadows moving at the corner of her eye, adding to her terror as she desperately sought an escape route. Emily rounded a corner and stumbled upon a forgotten maintenance room hidden from the main thoroughfare. Gasping for breath, she slammed the door shut behind her and leaned against it, trying to steady her racing heart. The room was cluttered with old equipment and dust-covered boxes, providing a stark contrast to the spectral chaos outside. Emily scanned the room frantically, searching for a way to defend herself or find a means of escape. The silence within the room felt almost deafening after the chaos of the haunted platform. As Emily caught her breath, she noticed a peculiar symbol etched into the wall. It glowed faintly, its outline pulsing with an otherworldly light. Curiosity overcame her fear as she approached cautiously, tracing her fingers along the symbol's intricate lines. A surge of energy coursed through her, revealing glimpses of the subway station's dark history. She saw shadows of past tragedies and forgotten souls trapped in eternal torment. The symbol seemed to hold the key to understanding the spectral unrest that plagued the station. Armed with newfound knowledge, Emily ventured back into the depths of the subway station. The ghosts still lingered, but now she understood their plight. She approached the spirits with empathy and determination, using the symbol to communicate and offer solace. One by one, the ghosts began to fade, their anguished cries replaced by whispers of gratitude. Emily felt a sense of closure and relief wash over her as peace returned to the haunted station. With the last ghost gone, Emily emerged from the subway station, the symbol still clutched in her hand. The station was quiet once more, its shadows no longer harboring spectral whispers. Emily ascended the stairs to the surface, feeling a sense of accomplishment and closure. The night air was crisp and clear as she stepped into the city streets, leaving behind the haunted depths below. In the quiet countryside, Moonlight Manor looms like a specter, its dark history shrouded in mystery and fear. A group of friends arrives at Moonlight Manor, drawn by whispers of its haunted past, their hearts pounding with anticipation. As they step inside, the friends are greeted by the musty scent of decay and the cold embrace of the manor's oppressive atmosphere. With flashlights in hand, the friends ventured deeper into Moonlight Manor, their nerves on edge as they navigate its labyrinthine corridors. Unseen by the friends, a sinister presence stalks them through the halls of Moonlight Manor, its intentions unknown but unmistakably malevolent. In the library, the friends uncover clues to the manor's dark past, their fingers tracing the faded pages of forgotten books as they search for answers. Suddenly, the friends are confronted by the apparitions of Moonlight Manor's tortured souls, their ghostly forms haunting the shadows and filling the air with their mournful cries. With fear gripping their hearts, the friends race through the corridors of Moonlight Manor, their footsteps echoing off the walls as they desperately try to escape the clutches of the supernatural. In a final, terrifying confrontation, the friends come face to face with the vengeful spirit that haunts Moonlight Manor, its spectral form twisting and contorting with rage. Armed only with their courage, the friends battle against the vengeful spirit, their voices trembling as they call upon ancient rites and incantations in a desperate bid to banish it from the manor. With one final, brilliant burst of light, the vengeful spirit is vanquished, its malevolent presence driven back into the darkness from whence it came. As the first light of dawn breaks over Moonlight Manor, the friends emerge from its haunted halls, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they have witnessed. But as they leave the manor behind, they know that they have faced their fears and triumphed over the darkness that threatened to consume them. With Moonlight Manor fading into the distance behind them, the friends walk away from the darkness, their spirits battered but unbroken, knowing that they have survived the haunting of Moonlight Manor. But as they leave, they can't help but wonder what other horrors lie hidden in the shadows, waiting to be discovered by unwary souls. For college friends Mark, Lisa, Tom, and Jen arrived at the old Blackwood Manor for a weekend getaway. The mansion, located deep in the woods, had been abandoned for decades. As they approached the front gate, the sky darkened, and an eerie silence surrounded them. Mark, the leader of the group, pushed open the rusty gate with a loud creak, and they walked up the overgrown path to the mansion. Inside the mansion, the air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. The grand foyer was adorned with old, tattered furniture and cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. Lisa found an old candelabrum and lit the candles, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The friends split up to explore the different rooms, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Mark and Jenna found the library, a large room filled with dusty old books and antique furniture. On a table in the center of the room lay a weathered journal. Jenna opened it and began to read aloud. The journal belonged to the last owner, a man named Edward Blackwood, who wrote about strange occurrences and mysterious disappearances in the house. As she read, a cold breeze blew through the room, causing the candles to flicker wildly. Meanwhile, Tom and Lisa were exploring the basement. The air was damp and cold, and their flashlights barely pierced the darkness. Suddenly, Lisa screamed as she saw a shadowy figure move in the corner of her eye. Tom turned quickly, but the figure vanished. They decided to head back upstairs, their hearts pounding. Regrouping in the foyer, the friends decided to stick together. They found a hidden door behind a large painting. The door led to a small, hidden room filled with strange artifacts and an old mirror. As they examined the room, the mirror began to fog up, and words appeared on its surface: "Leave now, or suffer the same fate." Suddenly, the ghost of Edward Blackwood appeared in the mirror. His face was gaunt and his eyes hollow. He warned them about the curse on the manor and begged them to leave before it was too late. The friends were frozen with fear as the ghostly figure faded away, leaving them in a tense silence. Ignoring the warning, the friends continued to explore. Strange things began to happen: whispers in the dark, flickering lights, and doors slamming shut on their own. Tom became increasingly paranoid, insisting they leave immediately. Mark tried to keep everyone calm, but the tension was palpable. Determined to break the curse, the friends returned to the hidden room. They found an old, cursed amulet among the artifacts. Remembering the journal, they decided to destroy it. As they prepared to smash the amulet, the room filled with a dark, oppressive presence. Ghostly figures emerged, trying to stop them. With a final, desperate effort, Mark smashed the amulet, and a blinding light filled the room. The oppressive presence lifted, and the mansion fell silent. The ghost of Edward Blackwood appeared one last time, thanking them for breaking the curse. He faded away, and the friends felt a sense of relief wash over them. Exhausted, they made their way out of the mansion as the first light of dawn broke through the trees. As they walked away from Blackwood Manor, the friends felt a mix of exhaustion and triumph. They vowed never to return and to keep the secret of the cursed mansion to themselves. The manor stood silently behind them, its dark past finally put to rest. Deep within the heart of Whispering Pines Forest, where the trees seem to whisper ancient secrets, lies the beginning of our tale. A group of friends, filled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, step into Whispering Pines, their footsteps echoing in the stillness of the night. In the midst of the dense forest, the friends stumble upon a small clearing, bathed in an otherworldly glow under the moonlight. As they explore the clearing, the friends witness strange apparitions moving among the trees, their forms shifting and elusive. Emerging from the darkness, an abandoned cabin stands silent and foreboding, its once welcoming facade now a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lie within. Inside the cabin, an oppressive atmosphere hangs heavy in the air, as if the very walls themselves are filled with unseen eyes watching their every move. With trepidation, the friends ventured deeper into the cabin, their flashlights casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to dance and sway with a life of their own. With mounting fear, the friends tried to leave the cabin, only to find their path blocked by an invisible barrier, trapping them within its walls. In a chilling moment, the friends come face to face with the vengeful spirit that haunts the cabin, its spectral form twisted with rage as it seeks revenge on those who disturb its rest. Armed with only their bravery, the friends battle against the vengeful spirit, their voices raised in a desperate bid to banish it from the cabin and free themselves from its grip. Just when all seems lost, a blinding light fills the cabin, casting out the shadows and revealing the truth behind the mysterious haunting. With the vengeful spirit banished, the cabin falls silent once more, its haunting presence lifted by the bravery of the friends who dared to confront it. As they step out into the moonlit night, they know they have faced their fears and emerged victorious. With whispering pines fading into the distance behind them, the friends walk away, their hearts lighter now that they have faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. But as they leave, they know that the memory of their harrowing ordeal will stay with them forever. On a stormy night, four friends arrived at Crestwood House, an old mansion rumored to be haunted. They were eager to spend the night, hoping to prove the legends wrong. With a loud creak, the front door opened, revealing a grand but decaying interior. Dust covered every surface, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. The air smelled musty and old. They began to explore the ground floor, moving from room to room. Each step they took echoed through the empty halls, and their flashlights revealed old portraits whose eyes seemed to follow them. In the dining room, the chandelier suddenly swayed, and the temperature dropped. A cold breeze blew through, though all windows were closed. They heard a faint whisper, but couldn't make out the words. To cover more ground, they decided to split up. Two of them went upstairs, while the other stayed to explore the ground floor further. The house seemed to grow darker and more oppressive. Upstairs, they found an old nursery. Broken toys lay scattered on the floor, and a rocking chair moved back and forth on its own. A child's laughter echoed softly. The friends on the ground floor discovered a door to the basement. As they descended, the air grew colder. In the darkness, they saw a figure standing still. It suddenly rushed towards them, vanishing just before reaching them. Terrified, the friends regrouped in the foyer. They realized they had to leave, but the front door, which had opened easily before, was now locked and wouldn't budge. While searching for another way out, they found a hidden passage behind a bookcase. The passage led to an underground tunnel. They hoped it would lead them to safety. As they made their way through the tunnel, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure again, this time more menacing. It reached out with a chilling wail. They ran as fast as they could. The tunnel finally led them outside, far from the house. They didn't stop until they were safely back in town, vowing never to return. Crestwood House remained abandoned and forgotten, a place of nightmares and lost souls. The friends never spoke of that night again, but they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The car's headlights cut through the thick fog that blanketed the winding country road. Sarah and her friends, Mark, Lisa, and James, were on their way to Blackwood Castle, an old and abandoned fortress rumored to be haunted. The group had been friends since college, and this trip was meant to be a thrilling adventure. Sarah glanced at the ancient map in her lap, tracing their route with her finger. "We should be close," she said, her voice tinged with excitement and a hint of apprehension. The dense trees on either side of the road seemed to close in, casting eerie shadows that danced in the headlights. The car emerged from the forest, and the imposing silhouette of Blackwood Castle loomed ahead. The castle, perched on a rocky hill, was a dark mass against the night sky. Its tall, crumbling towers and ivy-covered walls gave it a foreboding appearance. The group parked the car at the base of the hill and climbed out, staring up at the eerie structure. "It looks even creepier than I imagined," Lisa whispered. The wind howled through the trees, carrying the faint sound of a distant owl. Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine as they began their ascent to the castle. They found the castle's library, a large room filled with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Most of the books rolled and covered in dust, their titles barely legible. A massive fireplace dominated one wall, and an ornate chandelier hung from the ceiling. Sarah ran her fingers along the spines of the books, intrigued by their age and mystery. Mark picked up an old leather-bound journal from a table and opened it, revealing pages filled with handwritten notes and strange symbols. "Looks like someone was doing some serious research," he said. Lisa shivered as she felt a cold draft pass through the room. As they explored further, They entered a long corridor lined with suits of armor and faded portraits. The air grew colder, and the atmosphere felt heavy. Suddenly, Sarah stopped, staring down the hallway. "Did you see that?" she whispered. A shadowy figure had briefly appeared at the far end of the corridor before vanishing. The group tensed, their flashlights darting to and fro. "It was probably just a trick of the light," James said, though his voice wavered. They continued down the corridor, now more alert and wary. Mark noticed a small, almost invisible door hidden behind a tapestry. Curiosity piqued. He pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "Guys, check this out," he called. The group gathered around the entrance, their flashlights piercing the gloom. "Should we go down?" Lisa asked nervously. "We have to," Sarah replied, her sense of adventure overcoming her fear. They descended the creaking stairs, the air growing colder and damper. At the bottom, they found a hidden room filled with strange artifacts and ancient relics. In the center of the room was an old, ornate chest. James carefully opened the chest, revealing a collection of old, yellowed documents and peculiar items. Among them was a large, leather-bound book with strange markings on the cover. Sarah picked it up and opened it, revealing pages filled with ancient text and eerie illustrations. "This looks like some kind of spellbook," she said, her voice hushed. As she flipped through the pages, a sense of unease settled over the group. The air seemed to grow thicker, and a faint whispering sound filled the room, though they couldn't tell where it was coming from. Desperate for answers, Sarah suggested they try to communicate with whatever was haunting the castle. They found a dusty, old table in one of the rooms and arranged chairs around it. Using a makeshift planchette and a piece of paper with letters and numbers drawn on it, they began their seance. "Is anyone here with us?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. The planchette moved slowly at first, then more decisively, spelling out yes. The room grew colder, and the candles they had lit flickered violently. "What do you want?" Mark asked. The planchette moved again, spelling leave. After the seance, the group felt a renewed sense of urgency to escape. They decided to split up to search for another way out. Sarah and James went upstairs while Mark and Lisa stayed on the ground floor. As Sarah and James searched the upper rooms, they encountered a spectral figure of a woman in a long, flowing dress. Her eyes were hollow, and she seemed to be trying to speak. "Help us," Sarah whispered, but the ghostly figure only pointed towards a door at the end of the hallway before vanishing. Following the ghost's direction, Sarah and James opened the door at the end of the hallway, revealing a hidden passage that led down a narrow staircase. Meanwhile, Mark and Lisa found an old map in the library that seemed to indicate a secret exit. They rushed to find Sarah and James, and together, they descended the hidden staircase. The passage was dark and damp, the walls covered in moss and the air thick with moisture. They could hear distant whispers and footsteps echoing through the narrow space. The hidden passage led them to a series of underground catacombs beneath the castle. The walls were lined with ancient tombs and eerie statues. The air was colder here, and the sense of being watched was overwhelming. As they navigated the labyrinth and tunnels, they stumbled upon a large chamber with a central altar. Strange symbols were carved into the stone floor, and the remnants of old rituals were scattered around. "This must be where the hauntings originate," Sarah said, her voice echoing in the chamber. With the spirits banished, the atmosphere in the castle changed. The oppressive feeling lifted, and the cold draughts ceased. The group hurried back through the catacombs and up the hidden staircase. Finding the main doors of the castle now unlocked, they rushed outside into the dawn light, breathing in the fresh air with relief. "We did it," James said, hugging Sarah tightly. The castle, now silent and still, loomed behind them. They knew they had ended the haunting, but the memory of their terrifying night would stay with them forever. Weeks later, Sarah and her friends gathered at a local cafe, reflecting on their experience. They had done extensive research and learned that Blackwood Castle had been cursed centuries ago, trapping the souls of those who died there. By performing the ritual, they had freed those spirits. It's hard to believe it actually happened, Lisa said, sipping her coffee. But we have the evidence, Mark replied, showing the photos they had taken in the castle. They knew their story would be met with skepticism, but they had lived through it and come out stronger. In a small town nestled at the edge of a dense forest, a group of friends embarks on a weekend camping trip. Excitement fills the air as they load their gear into the back of an old pickup truck and set off into the wilderness. After hours of driving, they arrive at a secluded clearing deep in the heart of the forest. They pitch their tents, build a campfire, and settle in for the night, their laughter echoing through the trees as they roast marshmallows and swap ghost stories. As darkness falls, strange noises begin to echo through the forest, rustling leaves, snapping twigs, and low, guttural growls that send shivers down their spines. They try to brush it off as the wind or wild animals, but a sense of unease settles over the camp. In the dead of night, one of the friends ventures into the woods to answer nature's call and never returns. Panic grips the group as they search frantically for their missing companion, calling out into the darkness, but receiving no reply. Suddenly, they come face to face with a shadowy figure lurking in the underbrush, a tall, gaunt figure with glowing eyes that pierce the darkness. Terror grips their hearts as they realize they're not alone in the woods, and whatever lurks in the shadows is hungry for their souls. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the group turns and flees deeper into the forest, their footsteps pounding on the forest floor as they race to outrun the darkness nipping at their heels. Branches claw at their skin, and roots trip them up as they fight for survival. Just when it seems they can run no further, they stumble upon an ancient stone altar hidden deep within the forest, a relic of a long-forgotten civilization. With nowhere left to turn, they make a stand, ready to face whatever horrors await them in the heart of the shadowed grove. Drawing upon every ounce of courage they possess, the group performs a ritual to banish the shadowy entity from the forest once and for all. They chant ancient incantations, their voices rising in defiance against the darkness that threatens to consume them. As the first light of dawn breaks over the horizon, the darkness begins to recede, driven back by the power of the group's determination and bravery. With a final surge of energy, they complete the ritual, sealing the shadowy entity away once and for all. On a dark and stormy night, 3 college friends, Alex, Sam, and Jess, arrived at Blackwood Manor. They planned to spend the night exploring the abandoned mansion, known for its dark history. With a creaking groan, the front door opened. The friends stepped inside, greeted by a grand but decaying foyer. Dust-covered furniture and cobwebs filled the room, and the air smelled of mildew. As they explored the ground floor, they found old portraits with eyes that seemed to follow them. The silence was occasionally broken by the sound of dripping water and the creaking of old wood. In the dining room, the chandelier suddenly swung back and forth, and the temperature dropped. They heard faint whispers, but couldn't tell where they came from. To cover more ground, they decided to split up. Alex and Sam went upstairs while Jess continued exploring the ground floor. The house seemed to grow darker and more oppressive. Upstairs, Alex and Sam found an old nursery. Broken toys were scattered across the floor, and a rocking chair moved back and forth on its own. They heard a child's laughter echoing through the room. Jess found a hidden door leading to the basement. Descending the dark stairs, she felt an increasing sense of dread. In the basement, she saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner. It moved toward her and then vanished. Terrified, Jess ran upstairs and reunited with Alex and Sam. They decided to leave immediately, but when they tried to open the front door, it was locked and wouldn't budge. While searching for another way out, they discovered a hidden passage behind a bookcase. The passage led to a narrow tunnel, which they hoped would lead to safety. As they made their way through the tunnel, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure again, this time more menacing. It reached out with a chilling wail. They ran as fast as they could, The tunnel finally led them outside, far from the manor. They didn't stop until they were safely back in town, vowing never to return. Blackwood Manor remained abandoned and forgotten, a place of nightmares and lost souls. The friends never spoke of that night again, but they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched.